Good evening and welcome everybody to the overnight session of From Day One. It's a little weird because it's actually probably the first time I'm actually recording this at midnight. The same time that Midnight in the Desert, of course, has done. Now, we have started to experiment on shorter episodes. I am, for the time being, however, going to leave part 3 at the full time, just so we can have art. If the other ones start promoting a lot faster and this one doesn't, it may get shortened as well. And of course, if there is no improvement with these shorter episodes in part 1 and part 2, we will return to our full versions there as well. Tonight's Midnight in the Desert will have Father Michael Maginot along with us from October 1st, 2015. The show topic of the night, all about the exorcisms. So sit back, wrap in as we continue to go through Dominion and try to get pushed closer to 91 and levels beyond as our bell brings us midnight from the desert. And also, if you do think we should actually air this episode at midnight instead of 1 a.m. that we have been, drop us a message either in the comments or at gchero@gmail.com. Let us know and we can make that happen. Without further ado, here's Art.
From the high desert and the great American Southwest, I bid you good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be in the world's many time zones, each and every one covered like a blanket by this program, Midnight in the Desert. I'm Art Bell. Great to be here tonight. It's going to be a good program. It's going to be a scary program. I seem to rotate through virtually every emotion you can imagine doing these shows. All right, the rules for the show are very simple. We only have 2 rules. No bad language and only 1 call per show. That's it. Those are the rules. Thank you to Telos, Keith Rowan, my webmaster, Heather Wade, producer. Oh, Joe Talbot up there at Telos, right? Stream Guys, LV.net, Sales, Pete Eberhardt, Tune In Radio, and Leo Ashcraft for DMN and Dark Matter News and so much more. He does a lot of work, folks. A lot of work. Okay, housekeeping stuff first, I guess. Tonight is our first night on XDS. What you say is XDS. XDS is something that is a satellite downlink service for broadcast stations. So it allows them to easily pick us up and transmit us. Now, in addition to the 20 or 25 stations that we've already listed, tonight I would like to begin reading you some new ones that are just joining tonight. KAWL 1370 AM in York, Nebraska, welcome. KCOG 1400 AM in Centerville, California, or Centerville, Iowa. Boy, I'm not doing very well here, am I? Welcome, 1,000 watts. KBDB, 96.7 FM in Forks, Washington, 25,000 watts. A lot of watts. And here's one I'm in love with. KGUM 567 kilohertz. Is that a giveaway about what it might be? Agana, Guam. 10 kilowatts from Guam. Probably can hear them quite well in the Philippines, actually. I'll test that when I go over. KMAS 1030 AM in Shelton, Washington, 1 kilowatt. Welcome. They also have several translators, 92.9, 105.7 in Olympia, and 103.5 in Shelton. KTNH 1070 AM in Houston, Texas, 5 kilowatts. Hello, Houston. KTKN 930 in that's 930 AM in Ketchikan, Alaska, 1 kilowatt. Welcome. Also a translator on 97.5 in Craig, Alaska. KVSF 101.5 FM in Pecos, New Mexico. I'm getting the rhythm now. WDLR 1550 in Delaware, Ohio, welcome. WJML 1340 AM Lockport, New York, 1 kilowatt, welcome. WQTT 1270 AM in Marysville, Ohio, 500 watts, welcome. KTOX 1340 AM Needles, California, welcome. Needles, cool, just down the road, kind of. WLVL in Lockport, New York, 1 kilowatt, welcome. So that's what I'll read tonight. We'll kind of read these as we go along. Affiliates are coming in like crazy now, and if you want, there'll be many more. If you want us on in your market, then call up your local station manager and drive them crazy. All right. My UFO dream. This is nothing short of hilarious. I mentioned a dream one night I had on the air about a UFO, right? When was it? A couple weeks ago? Somebody went out and produced my dream in video, 3D animation video. It's at artbell.com. If you want something that's probably, you've got to see it. It's one of the funniest things you've ever seen. A dream put into 3D animation. I'm going to play the audio from it here, but trust me, it doesn't do justice. You need to go to artbell.com, and you need to see this. I about fell off the chair when he sent it to me earlier. Here's the audio from it, but go see the video. I had the weirdest dream last night. I had a dream about a UFO. How often does that occur? I was in a bus, and I had a camera, right? And I was going out of my mind because there was this plain to see UFO up ahead in my dream. And so I went to the front of the bus trying to get, a decent picture of the thing, which was just ahead of us hovering. And I couldn't get a picture of it. And then finally I did, went around a corner, so I can't remember. It was in the dream, right? What do I know? I got a picture of the UFO, or a couple of pictures, and then, you're going to love this. Somehow or another, I got to the UFO, and some little green guy, he wasn't really green, but an alien of some kind, reached out, grabbed my camera, and took it in, and I beat on his saucer. Beat the hell out of it, and out comes this arm with my camera, and I was happy. I remember in my dream being happy, and then, of course, I looked at my camera, and the pictures of the UFO that I took were gone. Ooh, was I angry. So maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's kind of like real life, huh? The pictures are always gone. This one was really gone. Well, that's it. You have to see the animation that goes with this. It is hilarious. What a job this guy did. Somebody, let's see, who is it? Amanda writes to me that she listened to one of my old interviews on YouTube, and she said, man, you were a lot meaner back then. Was I really mean back then? Am I not mean now? Maybe I need to get my mean on. By the way, if somebody wants to call early here, I'll take one early call. You've heard the bad news, and it couldn't be worse. It's, again, in America, again and again and again, even the president said it like that again. A gunman opened fire at an Oregon community college on Thursday, killed at least a dozen people. Now that's down to 9 dead, maybe 20 wounded. The numbers are fluctuating all around. We don't know. We don't know anything about the people killed. We don't know anything about the gunman. He was in his 20s, they say, and that's all they say, really, so we don't know. I did hear one thing, that he had posted something on a social media site saying, it's the only way he's ever going to get in the news. Really? That was his reason? It's the only way he's ever going to get in the news? Really? You think it's so great being in the news? President Obama went on the tube and talked to the nation, and he said, we're becoming numb to mass shootings, and we are. And naturally, he talked about gun control. We don't have a gun problem in America. There are a lot of guns. We have a mental health problem in America. Ronald Reagan, much to my distress, because I loved the man, but he opened up the doors of the mental health facilities and pretty much ejected everybody a long time ago, and it's never been the same since. And now I think we're in a worse situation now, mental health wise, and obviously, the people who lobby for guns, they're right. Guns don't kill people. People do that. And they do it because they're mentally ill. I mean, how is it not mentally ill to kill a whole bunch of people in a college because it was the only way you were going to get on the news? There had to be signs. There just had to be. Oh, okay. I see somebody's calling. So let me very quickly answer the phone and try to get it on here. Okay, so line 2, you're on the air. What the hell do you want?
Philip, I'm sorry. I wanted to share a dream with you.
Well, no dreams tonight. I've got something really important to do. Get off my line.
Sorry.
Yeah, all right. Fine. Don't let it happen. Is that what you mean? That was cruel. If you're out there listening, I'm sorry. I can't be mean. Not really. I mean, I could be, but what would be the point? All right, coming up after the break, we've got something really special for you. Father Michael Maginot was born in Gary, Indiana, in 1957. He's a couple years, decade or so younger than I am. He went to Rome for theology and gained an STL degree in biblical theology in 1984. Father Mike was ordained a priest on July 2nd of 1983. He would then be later sent back to Rome to gain a JCL degree in canon law at the Pontifical Gregorian University in 2000. When he returned, he would be assigned to St. Stephen Martyr Parish as administrator, with duties also at the tribunal in the Diocese of Gary. For 3 years, he was in charge of the tribunal as judicial vicar for the diocese, then became pastor of the parish. In 2012, he was given permission by the bishop to be an exorcist for the Amon family. I'm having trouble with mouth tonight. The Amon family, I believe that is correct, in Gary, Indiana, whose case eventually would receive worldwide notoriety. It was a really serious exorcism. So, in a moment, coming up is Father Maginot. And I really think that this is one that you're going to sort of want to, take a moment and take a deep breath and get ready for. Because it's going to be rough stuff. I mean, we're talking, I guess, about the devil here. In fact, we'll find out very early what it is we're talking about. From the high desert, I'm Art Bell with Midnight.
All right, and again, we'll return to them the second they return to full audio.
And Midnight in the Desert is pounding packets your way on the Dark Matter Digital Network. To call the show, please direct your finger digits to dial 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952. Call Art.
Well, all right, here we go. I couldn't resist, of course, that song at the beginning. Father Mike Maginot, welcome to Midnight in the Desert.
Thank you.
You're located in a cold place, right?
Near Chicago.
Near Chicago. That's a cold place. In fact, I was in Chicago in the winter, and boy, they're not kidding about the Windy City. When it gets down near zero, and the wind is going around those buildings, wow, that's about the... I lived in cold places, and that about did it. So, where to begin with you, sir? Father, is evil real?
Very much.
Okay, a lot of people doubt that, you know. In fact, a lot of people doubt a lot of things, but especially evil, both good and evil. In fact, a lot of people doubt both. I once interviewed over many months a man named Father Malachi Martin. Have you ever heard the name?
Yes.
Okay. Sort of a heretic with regard to the Vatican, but he had a lot of interesting things to say. For example, he used to say that walking down the streets of New York, he could tell when he passed a person if they were perfectly possessed. An interesting phrase. In other words, he explained it by saying, you know, well, they have a job, they have a life, and they have certain things they want in that life, money, fame, whatever it is. They've made their deal, and they're satisfied with it. Does that sound like some people perfectly possessed?
Yes, because they look pretty much like, as you said, a normal person, but they have been totally dedicated themselves to the working with Satan against God.
Yes, sir. Is it possible that a person in a quiet moment, perhaps a moment of, I don't know, despair or greed or something, would sit down and in their own mind, I mean, you know, we have this classic movie definition of the devil trotting in with horns and a contract that you have to sign, but you really could make your pact with the devil quietly, silently, and all by yourself, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Can a curse cause somebody to be possessed?
That is becoming more common than people think.
Really?
Because a curse would be put on someone by one who would be perfectly possessed, someone who has dedicated themselves to working totally against God, working with Satan, has invited him into their life, and it is in that relationship that Satan, the devil, tries to get them to do more and more of his work, which they are usually most willing to go along with. Occasionally there does come a time when they can go no farther. And that's probably when we get called in, because now they will fight against that relationship.
Okay, if I might. So if we consider, for example, somebody who's perfectly possessed, and I don't know, their deal with the devil was, I want to rise to the top of my business, and somebody gets in their way, that perfectly possessed person could in effect put a curse against somebody in their way and have something bad happen to them.
Yes, to do that, they would usually have to first develop a friendship with that person. It usually starts, they actually are trying to get them on board with themselves, with Satan, you know. So it is maybe a mentoring or some sort of relationship that is developed as like a friendship. Mm-hmm. But in the course of that, they also want to make sure that friendship is maintained. And so they want to get a personal object of that person, something very special to them.
Wow.
Or else they could also give something to that person that person would consider to be very special. And so that forges the bond between the person. So you have to establish that first. And then it's usually only when that person turns away from them, then that they use that object to form a curse. And it's kind of to get them back, to intimidate them, to scare them. But usually it has the opposite effect. It drives them further away. But that's, and it takes a ritual, to come to do that. So that's why you have to be perfectly possessed.
Father, you
to do
know,
a ritual that way.
right, what you have described, particularly involving the personal object or maybe a lock of hair or whatever, and then a ritual, this sounds, I have interviewed witches on the air, Father.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not to my credit, but I do interview witches. And frankly, that is exactly what they say that they need to do their job of some kind of spiritual warfare, they call it.
Mm-hmm.
That sound about right?
Yeah, so it is the sending of some demon to them. Now, it's a demon that's already, they are tied with. And that demon will bother them, until they would have it be sent to someone else.
Ooh.
So.
Okay. We also have talked on this program about the next thing, and that is generational curses. People claim that they have generations of their family that have had curses laid on them. This happens. It is effective.
Yeah, that would be like from mother to daughter, usually. That's the usual way, mother to son. Occasionally father, to child as well. But it seems, tends to be women more pass that on
Really?
to their children. And it is usually those that are involved in occult type of practices, Santeria, voodoo, things like that.
Would it be your view, Father, that people who toy around with things like Ouija boards are possibly calling forth things they're not going to be so happy that come?
Yeah, so that's the second way of kind of inviting a demon into your life. Now, they can never, there's the normal way that any devil demon comes to a person, and that's through what's normally allowed by God is temptation. Any demon could tempt you, and that's pretty much putting an idea in your head. They speak to us telepathically that way. So you get this strange idea in your head, and that any person is open to that experience. To go further, then it would need an invitation on our part to invite a demon more into our lives beyond that. And so Ouija boards, tarot cards, palm reading, fortune telling, those kind of occult practices, seances, they are ways to open up our lives to having a demon to have further control in it. Now, a lot of times curiosity is the first thing that kind of gets people to go into that, and probably the best thing to happen to a person would be they get scared of that and never touch it again.
Right.
But the demon working that doesn't really want that experience. They want to intrigue us and entice us and encourage us to go further and further with them. But it does have, that's kind of the risk they take, when they kind of see something happening, either the person will get scared and stop it or get intrigued and get more involved in it. And so that's where it starts to begin. We open the door to them in our lives. But once you open that door, we lose control on when we could tell them to leave, because now they kind of have taken control. We have given them that opportunity. And so when we don't want them anymore, they're going to fight that. And that's, again, when we kind of get called, is because they want us to get more and more involved in their business, their life. And when we don't want it, we want to break it, then they're going to go from kind of a friendship type of thing to an attack, and turn on us to intimidate us so they'll go from enticement to fear.
Right. Father, have you ever, how long have you been a priest now? How many years?
32 years.
32 years. In that time, have you ever had weak moments in your own faith, or have you felt your faith challenged? That's a hard question. You can say, I'd rather not answer that.
Yeah. I mean, there are always challenges, but I don't think anything that was really, I guess probably the biggest time would have been when I did leave the seminary. There was, I had a girlfriend, and so I left the seminary my sophomore year in college, and so I had to deal with that, but I did come, and ended up seeing that no, I was called to be a priest, and came back, but that was a difficult time.
Boy, that must have been rough, indeed, very rough, and it was sort of an impertinent question. I probably shouldn't have asked, but as we go on tonight, it may be that people will understand the reason for it. I think you've also had opportunities to see your faith strengthened enormously, and we'll talk about that. We've got the long break we talked about is here, and then we'll come back and really get going. Father, stand by. Father Michael Maginot is my guest. He did an exorcism that was nationwide.
And again, we'll mute just for their musical bumper. I am going to check, as it might be time for Dark Matter News. Doesn't sound like it.
Midnight sweeps across America. You found an oasis for the mind. To call Midnight in the Desert, please dial 1-952. Call Art, that's 1-952-225-5278.
Well, all right. This is going to be quite a program. Father Maginot did an exorcism that made nationwide, maybe worldwide news, and you're going to hear about it. It's a very serious one with witnesses before, and it's really complicated and amazing what he did. And the reason I asked him about his faith was, without going into the details of the exorcism yet, we'll get to that, it just seems to me that coming face to face with whatever it is you came to face with, the devil or a demon, that would be actually a faith-affirming moment. Would that be right, Father?
Oh, yes, definitely, because dealing with a demon, they have an intelligence that is far superior to ours and very manipulative, and so we do have to have it based on a faith in God, who is more powerful, or else we would come to think that without that what we are facing is the most powerful thing we ever seen.
Yes.
But knowing that God is more powerful, it is that protection that enables us to carry out that.
I mean, if anybody ever doubted God, certainly coming face to face with the demon or with the devil, that would do the trick, it seems to me. Anyway, before we move on, Father, today something awful happened again up in Oregon at a community college, and a guy went in with a rifle of some kind and shot apparently 9 dead, maybe 20 wounded. And our president came on and talked to the nation about it, and you could see that our president was very dejected, and it is, I completely understand, it is so mystifying to me and so many others when this sort of thing happens, and again, and again, and again, and again, and it's almost like something. I mean, there was a quote on social media, Father, that said the guy said something like, "It's the only way I'll ever get in the news." Yeah. And so the other thing Father Malachi Martin said is that possession is up hundreds of percent in New York City and nationwide, he thought, as well. And, you know, I'm not sure where else we go for an explanation. I'm not the gun lobby, but, Father, it's not the guns. It's people's decisions to use them that's going on here. It's mental health. Or maybe it's what we're talking about. What do you think?
Yeah, the devil does have all kinds of tools that get us into his world, which is hatred of mankind. And in my particular case, an exorcism, which is a ritual, pretty much only works against evils that were ritualized in, you know, as we were talking about curses and Ouija boards and what you called and things like that.
That's right.
But he also has many other tools that are more, say, normal. But exorcism wouldn't work on that. But they do take possession of the person, from beginning with different addictions like alcohol, gambling, sex addiction, also video games, and those types of things also kind of take possession of the person slowly but surely. And they start out perhaps maybe as good things. There's, you know, whenever anything is done in moderation, it's a good or the purpose that was designed by God, because, you know, God does give us good things, or enable us to create good things to kind of let loose the endorphins that he created in us to help us to get that little oomph so that we could do difficult things that are responsibilities. Mm-hmm. And so it's nice to have a nice balance between those things. So where there's things we like to do that help us to do the responsibilities or duties that we also need to carry out, and to have that nice balance in life is very good. But the problem with addictions and such, with endorphins and such, is there's a law of diminishing returns. Oh, yeah. And so we think to do it again is going to, you know, keep that high going, but it diminishes, and that's in God's design, because it's only those things are just there to give us a boost, to help us deal with the more difficult, normal things of life that we have to deal with, and so they don't get us down completely. And so, but when we just go and do them over and over and over, then that defeats the purpose, and so it's not putting the little spice of life in each little, you know, in some of these things that we enjoy doing to enable us to live, you know, and do the things that God also wants us to do, which are sometimes difficult, the daily drudgeries.
All right, but Father, this thing of people just suddenly deciding to walk into schools and kill children.
Yeah.
You know, there's something going on here that's way, way beyond my understanding.
Yeah, that's probably something, you know, we need to see what does lead people to that, because it does have to something brought about a meaninglessness in their life, you know, that all of a sudden, you know, that's a long thing that Satan had to do to drag a person down into thinking that, you know, their life is meaningless, and the only thing that's left for them to do is to kill a whole mess of people so they could get on the news. I mean, for a person to come to that level, it takes a long time.
One would think. Or is it possible, is it possible that a demon can grab somebody's thoughts, maybe a person who's already weak due to one of the things that you described, and put the thought in their mind to just go and do this horrid kind of thing?
Yeah. So it does, they would have to lose the purpose that God had for them in their life. And so it is something that seemed to be a good that has taken hold of them. And the more it takes hold of them, and the more it keeps them away from doing what God wants them to do. And so all of a sudden their life turns to be meaningless, and they kind of get into despair, and there's nowhere else to turn, and then there's a hatred of themselves, and that turns to hatred toward others. And so it is the very process a demon, a devil uses to get us into a hell, away from God so much that all of a sudden there doesn't seem to be anything else out there except what he suggests. Now, but the person has to be brought to that point before they would do something like that.
So that's a process you're describing. It's not instant. It's a process.
No, it's a long, so that just didn't happen overnight. It's not like, we get to be tempted. Oh, let's go to the school and take our gun and shoot everyone.
Yes.
That doesn't happen. For a person to get to that point, the devil has been working on them a long time, slowly taking possession. Now, we always have free will, and we're always free to come to get away from that. But there does come to see this cycling darkness that, as we get involved in something over and over and over, to the point that we're no longer doing what God created us to do, and we're, and it seems this dark, hopeless thing that we finally come to the point where the devil wanted us to do this type of thing. And so I think we do need to see when a person is cycling down,
there's my
to
point.
Get them out of that.
Yeah, why doesn't somebody see this cycling? Either parents or friends or fellow students, or my gosh, somebody has got to be seeing this go on. If you say it's a process, the long process you talk about, I don't know. There's no answers that make any sense to me. To what end, Father, do demons possess the living? In other words, what is the point to the demon? Why are they jealous? Do they want to have physical bodies, or feel they have physical bodies, or what? Why?
It probably goes all the way back to the very beginning, because a demon is a fallen angel, and in the very beginning, the Book of Genesis doesn't really speak about the creation of angels, but we kind of have a hint of it in the first verse, that in the beginning, when God created heaven and the earth, there was this formless void. There was this chaos. And it's before the visible universe was created with the light. And so there was the creation of the invisible universe of the spirits created in God's image and likeness, but they didn't really have anything to do. So it's kind of chaotic. They're free will, but they're kind of just bumping into, have nothing to do, kind of bumping into each other. So it's kind of a chaotic mess. And so God now will create the visible universe. And so he created light, and the first person who carried out the light is Lucifer, who means light bearer. And so he was the highest, the first creature given a job to take care of the light, to bear it. And then God gave other commands, and then, and then all the angels, the whole invisible creation now became involved in the visible creation, and were involved in all kinds of things.
You're saying at the beginning now, let me get this straight, at the beginning Lucifer was the keeper of light.
Yeah, so Lucifer was the highest of the angels. So he carried out the very first task of God, the very first order, command. So God said, let there be light, and there was light. So God created the light, and Lucifer bore that light, carried it.
Lucifer doesn't have that light anymore, though, right?
No. Now he considered himself to be, he knew he was the greatest. He was the first asked by God, and so he had that idea that he's the greatest. Then when God created, and then there was now everything went from good to very good with the creation of man in his image and likeness. He then, when God rested, and creation was complete. He then gave Lucifer the second command, and he wanted him to now take care of man, to be his guardian angel, to be the guardian angel of Adam.
Really?
Now, that was very insulting to him, because he felt he was the greatest of creatures, and man was kind of the, even though he was created in God's image and likeness, and there was also one thing that Lucifer's a little bit jealous of, too, was that man was given the command to be fruitful and multiply. He could reproduce like all the other living things of God's creation can reproduce. An angel can't, so that they can't reproduce. So
contrary to what many people think, the devil, Lucifer, cannot reproduce or do anything with a human woman.
Now, actually, in Genesis, there was a suggestion that there was this that created the flood. Was that actually Lucifer? Before I get into that, let me just kind of complete the thought.
Go ahead.
Because he felt that man, which was a lesser creature than himself, should serve him, instead of what God was asking him to serve man. So he had an idea that of a master-slave relationship is the proper order for creation.
Mm-hmm.
Well, God, as a father, had the idea that his order is that the greater serves the lesser. So it's a father, son, parent, child,
yes,
a mother taking care of a baby type of a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was these two mentalities that now came in conflict. Now, when Lucifer refused to do that, he was now going to show God who's boss, and he was going to, not do what God wanted, but what he was going to enslave man. And so he was going to turn man away from God, away from his command, and have him do what his bidding. And so, and when he came to actually lower himself, so he went from being the highest creature to now lowering himself to kind of crawling on the earth and embracing the earth and taking over the earth, so to speak. But that was and eating its dust and all this kind of stuff. So he lowered and he ceased to be that angel of light and now became a serpent, now became crawling on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, again, so that mankind would also would also lose what God designed for it and come to join him in the same way. And so that would begin the great battle. And so it went from a relationship of love to one of domination. And so, and that would be, mankind would kind of give into that. Then once Lucifer, Satan saw that he no longer had his high position, and he was jealous, became jealous and hateful of man, because now man seemed to be able to do something he couldn't do, which was reproduce. And so now he had to come up with a way to try to reproduce using man cooperation. And so it seemed like he formed what is known as the Nephilim, which is a race of giants that they made mankind so evil. And it's kind of in ancient times, medieval times, there would be demons that were known as incubus and incubi and succubi.
Right.
So the incubus is one who would attack a female, and a succubi is one who would attack a male. So he seemed to do what I think in our modern times we see this activity more as aliens, extraterrestrials doing this, but where he would come to take the seed of man, the sperm of man, join it with an egg of a woman, and implant it in the woman, so that the woman would give birth to a child, but outside of the plan of God.
Right.
And so instead of God implanting a human soul in that, he could enter into that and be take that body, possession of that body. And so there came to be that race of giants, these demonized human beings that started to grow up, which corrupted the world so bad that God had to destroy it and start again from scratch with Noah and such.
All right, Father, we've got to hold it right there. We're at a break, so stand by, and we'll be right back. Father Mike Maginot is my guest. Just wait till you hear what's ahead. It'll be quite an exorcism.
Let me tell you what.
Okay, and actually, right there is probably where we'll leave it for tonight. We will, of course, pick up Midnight in the Desert, Part 2 of Exorcisms, tomorrow night. And yes, this will end up making this episode a little shorter than normal, but again, I'm not going to go the full 30-minute route as we did for Part 1. And this is just a test. If it finds out you guys do not like it, we will definitely return to the old school format for these episodes. So again, please let us know your likes or dislikes with these changes. So we're just trying to make everything better for everybody who's watching the show. In the meantime, of course, do like, share, and subscribe. Get those goals, get us up to those goals of 5,000 views, so Boxing Extras will pay attention. 1,000 subscribers to YouTube, so that way they'll not only starting sending us items that we can send to you, but also help us on that YouTube algorithm. Coinbase.com information below. Fill that out to get your free crypto. And of course, the Coinbase Earn lessons, less than 2-minute lessons, 1-question quizzes to get yourself up to another $100 in free crypto. Until we do meet again tomorrow, always make sure that your battles are great here in Dominion. Like, share, and subscribe. Be kind to one another. And join us again tomorrow from day one.